Sofia never expected that one simple message could destroy her 14-year marriage. That night, Sofia was preparing dinner when her phone buzzed. A routine occurrence, nothing out of the ordinary. There was no ominous feeling, no warning signs. She wiped her hands on her apron, picked up the phone, and read the message. "She needs our help. I'm moving in with her. I withdrew all the money from our joint account." Haha, Sofia froze. Her heartbeat slowed for a brief moment, but her hands remained steady as she held the phone. No trembling, no screaming, no panic. She simply stared at the screen, allowing every word to carve itself into her mind. But the shock didn't stop there. Another message appeared. "She's pregnant, Sofia. We have to take responsibility for her." Pregnant? A wave of dizziness crashed over her. Her mind buzzed, but she forced herself to stay calm. James, her husband of 14 years? Who was he talking about? A name flashed through her mind instantly, but she didn't want to believe it. It wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just betrayal. James, the man she had built a life with, had gotten her younger sister pregnant. Emily, the girl 9 years younger, the sister Sofia had practically raised after their mother passed away. The one she had protected, supported, and guided through life. The one she trusted the most. And now she was carrying James's child? Sofia's hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't waver. She continued setting the dinner table, her movements chillingly composed. If James expected rage, tears, or desperate begging, he was about to be disappointed. She tapped on the message box and typed one simple word: "Congratulations." No exclamation point, no question, no anger, just one word. If James thought she would lose control, he had severely underestimated the woman he had been married to for over a decade. Sofia set her phone down and took a deep breath. From the living room, she could hear their son Liam softly humming a tune, blissfully unaware that his family had just crumbled. She wouldn't let him see her break. Looking back, the signs had always been there. Sofia had trusted both of them too much to ever suspect anything. The late nights at work. The excessive concern James showed for Emily. The pathetic excuses about helping her with errands. Emily had even joked before. "You're so lucky to have a husband like James, sis. Not everyone would help me move or fix my electricity like he does." Sofia had smiled at the time, never questioning a thing. Now everything made sense. She had been deceived by the two people she trusted most. But if James thought she was going to collapse, he had made a fatal mistake. The revenge that James never saw coming. Sofia was never the type to react impulsively. She believed in preparation, in gaining control before the enemy even knew they had lost. So when she found the hotel receipt in James's pocket 3 months ago, she didn't confront him right away. If she accused him without a solid plan, he would lie. Manipulate her. Gaslight her into thinking she was crazy, that she was just imagining things. So instead of confrontation, Sofia prepared. She started by checking their finances. On the surface, they had a joint account for household expenses. But James didn't know that Sofia had her own separate account, one she had been carefully growing over the years. James never paid attention to financial details. He assumed she handled everything while he spent freely. So Sofia silently drained their joint account, leaving just enough for James not to notice. She secured all major assets under her name. Their house, for instance, had always been legally hers before marriage. James had suggested putting his name on the deed multiple times, but Sofia had delayed it every time. Now that decision had proven to be one of the smartest things she ever did. But money wasn't the only thing she secured. She hired a lawyer, discreetly. A smart woman doesn't wait until she's been destroyed to protect herself. She prepares ahead of time. She spent hours researching divorce laws, especially regarding infidelity and asset division. In their state, adultery had severe consequences when it came to financial settlements. Then she checked James's credit card statements. It didn't take long to find suspicious transactions: flowers, jewelry, hotel bills. Nothing for her. Every night, while James thought he was safe, Sofia sat at her computer documenting every transaction, every message, every lie. She waited, because she knew the right moment would come. And then when James sent that text, when he thought he was in control, Sofia simply smiled. James believed he was walking away victorious. He had no idea the battlefield had already been set against him. James thought he won. James always believed he was the smartest person in the room. He thought he could manipulate situations to his advantage, always have an escape plan. When he sent the message confessing his affair, he wasn't scared, he was smug. He imagined Sofia breaking down, begging him to stay, pleading to fix their marriage. And when she simply replied, "Congratulations," he laughed. He thought it was her pathetic way of pretending she was okay. James felt relieved. He drove to the bank, logged into their joint account and emptied it. It wasn't a huge sum, but it was enough to start his new life with Emily. With this money, he could get them an apartment, prepare for the baby cover expenses. And if things ever got difficult, he could always come back to Sofia. To him, this was the perfect plan. But he was so wrong. James didn't know that Sofia had been preparing for months. He had no idea that she had already moved most of their finances to an account only she controlled. The money he withdrew? It was left there on purpose, a decoy just enough to make him feel like he was winning. And the house? James still believed that no matter what, he could always come back. After all, they were still legally married. He thought he had a right to the house. He didn't. The house was entirely Sofia's. He had tried countless times to get his name on the title, but she had refused every time. And now? She had changed the locks. James was locked out of his own illusion. No home, no financial security, no safety net. And when reality finally hit him, the fear set in. James had never planned for this, but Sofia had. And now she was about to watch his entire world crumble, piece by piece. James begins to lose control. For the first time in years, James felt like he was no longer in charge. He tried withdrawing more money from his personal account, only to discover that his credit cards had been frozen. He had no other financial resources, because he had always relied on Sofia to manage the money. He returned to the house he once thought would always be his safety net, only to find that the locks had been changed. He called Sofia. She didn't answer. He sent a text. "Sofia, did you change the locks? I need to get my things." The message was read, but no reply came. 5 minutes later, a text from Sofia appeared. "You're mistaken, James. I didn't change the locks. The homeowner did." A suffocating feeling gripped him. Homeowner? For the first time in his life, he realized the cold, hard truth. He had never truly owned anything. Everything he thought was his, the money, the house, the stability, had been under Sofia's control all along. And now he had nothing. James's panic begins. James panicked. He frantically called Emily, but she too was beginning to realize that James had no plan. She had believed that he would take care of her, that he would build a better life for them. But now she saw James for what he really was, a man without a home, without money, and most importantly, without responsibility. The tension between them grew quickly. The fights began. "Emily, you said you had a plan. You told me we wouldn't have to worry about anything." "James, I didn't know Sofia would do this. She's trying to destroy us." "No, James, you destroyed yourself." The arguments escalated. Emily no longer saw James as the strong, capable man she once admired, and James was beginning to realize something horrifying. Emily was not Sofia. She didn't have patience, she didn't have intelligence, and most importantly, she wasn't capable of handling responsibility like Sofia had been. And for the first time in years, James felt real fear. He thought he was the winner. But now everything he once had was gone. He looked around and realized he had nothing left. Sofia turns the tables. James had always assumed that he was in control. He believed that no matter what he did, he would always hold the upper hand, that he could betray Sofia, leave her for her own sister, and if things didn't go as planned, he could always come back. He was sure that Sofia could never live without him, that she would always wait, hope, and be ready to forgive. But he underestimated her. Sofia didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't argue. She didn't get angry or confront him immediately. Instead, she took action. Step 1, freezing the accounts. The next morning after dropping her son off at school, Sofia executed the first step of her long-prepared plan. She called her lawyer. "It's time." Her lawyer was ready. They immediately froze all joint accounts that she and James shared. James thought he had emptied the account, but that was just the surface level of the plan. Sofia had been transferring most of the funds into her private account for months. The money James had taken? It was what she had deliberately left behind, just enough to make him feel like he was still in control, but ultimately meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And now everything that remained in their shared financial system was locked down. James woke up in Emily's apartment, opened his banking app, and realized he couldn't withdraw a single cent. He called the bank only to be told that Sofia had the legal right to freeze their joint accounts, thanks to the legal groundwork she had laid months ago. For the first time, he felt real concern. Step 2. Changing the locks. The final blow. While James was still in shock over his frozen accounts, Sofia was already moving on to the next step, cutting off every possible escape route. The house he once lived in, the place he thought he could return to any time, was no longer his. That morning, Sofia called a locksmith. As they replaced every lock, she felt a weight lifting off her shoulders. James never realized that the house was never his to begin with. Before they got married, Sofia had purchased the home in her name only. James had asked multiple times to have his name added to the title, but Sofia had always responded with, "We'll think about it later," and later never happened. That afternoon, James drove back to the house, still believing that despite everything, he could return anytime. But when he inserted his key, it didn't work. He rang the doorbell. No answer. He called Sofia. No response. Then a single text came through. "You're mistaken, James. I didn't change the locks. The homeowner did." His heart dropped. Homeowner? For the first time in his life, he understood the cold, hard truth. He had never truly owned anything. No money, no house, no control. Step 3. Filing for divorce. The legal knockout. While James was in disbelief, Sofia moved on to the final step, filing for divorce. Her attorney submitted the paperwork immediately, citing adultery with clear evidence, hotel receipts, bank statements, and even James's own text messages. In their state, infidelity played a huge role in divorce settlements. That meant James wasn't just losing the house and money, he had no legal claim to anything. Sofia's lawyer had ensured that James wouldn't receive a single dollar from the divorce. James finally realizes he's lost. That night, James called repeatedly, leaving voicemail after voicemail. "Sofia, what the hell are you doing? You can't do this to me. We need to talk." But Sofia didn't answer. Then one final desperate text arrived. "Sofia, you're taking this too far. I know I messed up, but you don't have to ruin my life like this. Let's talk at least. We don't have to turn this into a war." Sofia smirked. A war? This wasn't a war. This was simply James facing the consequences of his own choices. She typed one final message. "There's no war, James. You lost a long time ago." Then she blocked his number. Sofia didn't just survive, she won. James thought he could betray Sofia and walk away without consequences. He believed that he could still maintain control. But now he had nothing left. No money, no house, no wife, no stability. Sofia, the woman he thought he had broken, turned the tables on him flawlessly. She never needed to scream. She never needed to argue. She never needed to get angry. She simply let James destroy himself. And when he finally realized what he had lost, it was already too late. James has nowhere left to go. After his bank accounts were frozen, the house was locked, and Sofia officially filed for divorce. James realized he had nowhere left to turn. He thought he could stay with Emily, but in reality, she was also drowning in chaos. No money, no plan, no ability to take care of herself. Emily was no longer the fun, exciting escape he had imagined. Their life together quickly became a nightmare. Emily panicked, realizing James had no way to support her or their unborn child. They argued constantly, blaming each other for their current situation. Without rent money, they received an eviction notice from the landlord for failing to pay on time. And then when Emily finally understood that James could never give her the life she wanted, she left him behind to find a way out for herself. James was officially alone. A desperate plea. He called Sofia. No answer. He texted, "Can we at least talk? I need help, Sofia. Let me in the house, at least to pack up my things." No response. 10 minutes later, a text from Sofia appeared. "There's nothing left for you to pack. You don't have anything here anymore." His chest tightened. For the first time in his life, James felt truly powerless. He once had a stable life, a loving wife, and a comfortable home. But he had thrown it all away, and this time there was no way back. James had always believed he was in control, but now he realized he had never been the one in control. Sofia had always been one step ahead of him. And by the time he realized it, It was too late. Sofia's new beginning. 3 weeks after James was erased from her life, Sofia realized she had never felt this free. No more sleepless nights filled with worry, no more mysterious text messages or lies she tried to ignore, no more betrayal from the people she loved most. Instead, she woke up each morning in her own home, enjoying a cup of coffee without James in the background. She wasn't just surviving, she was truly living. James falls apart completely. While Sofia's life flourished, James's life collapsed further. With no home, no money, and no one left to rely on, he desperately turned to old friends for help. But no one wanted to take in a cheater, a failure, a man with no future. One by one, even his former supporters distanced themselves. Emily had left him, realizing he was nothing without Sofia. His friends avoided him. Every door that was once open to him had closed. James was officially nothing. Sofia doesn't look back. The small business that James once mocked as just a hobby was now thriving. She opened a second boutique. She enjoyed the freedom of running her business without James controlling her. One day her assistant walked in with a smirk. "You won't believe this. I just saw James across the street staring at the store." Sofia took a sip of her coffee and asked casually, "How does he look?" "Terrible. Like he hasn't slept in days." Sofia didn't need to look outside. She already knew what James had realized. He had lost the most valuable thing in his life. But it no longer mattered. Sofia had moved on stronger than ever. James could look back, he could regret, he could drown in the consequences of his choices. But for Sofia, he was nothing but a distant memory. And she had never felt so free. James hits rock bottom. 3 weeks had passed since Sofia closed the last door on James's life. During that time, he tried to fix things, but failed miserably. He thought he could rely on old friends, but they didn't want to help a cheating broke man. Emily's apartment, they had been evicted for not paying rent. The money he had left, it was barely enough to survive. His friends, they avoided him like the plague. For the first time ever, James realized he had nothing. A last desperate attempt. He had tried calling Sofia, blocked. He had tried texting her, no response. When all else failed, he made one final gamble. He went to her boutique, hoping for a chance to talk. From across the street, he watched as Sofia stepped outside, confident, successful, and completely unaffected by his absence. She didn't look at him. She didn't acknowledge him. It was as if he had never existed in her life at all. Sofia doesn't care anymore. While James struggled to find a place to sleep at night, Sofia was expanding her business. Sales skyrocketed after she freed herself from a toxic marriage. She traveled, did things she had never been able to do before, because she was always supporting James. And the worst part for James? She didn't need him. James had once believed that she would beg him to come back, that she would be miserable without him. But instead she thrived more than ever. Regret, but too late. By the time James realized he had lost the best thing in his life, it was far too late. Sofia had completely shut the door. No emotions, no second chances, no connection left between them. And in the end, James was left with nothing but himself. No home, no money, no future. Sofia moves forward, completely free. 3 weeks after James had been erased from her life, Sofia never thought about him again. She had once believed that divorce would bring her pain, but in reality, it brought peace. No more sleepless nights wondering where he was, no more lies, no more sacrificing herself for a relationship that was already dead. Now Sofia was happier than ever. James's life is over. While Sofia embraced her new beginning, James sank deeper into despair. No home, no money, no one left to turn to. He had always believed Sofia would be his safety net, that no matter how much he hurt her, she would always forgive him. But now for the first time he understood. Sofia was truly done with him. No replies, no phone calls, no doors left open. James had lost everything. Sofia builds a new life. While James struggled to survive, Sofia began an exciting new chapter. She spent more time with her son, enjoying the moments she once sacrificed for James. The business James once mocked was now expanding beyond what she had ever imagined. She embraced her freedom and never looked back. James is nothing but a name from the past. One afternoon, while sitting in her favorite cafe, Sofia's phone buzzed, a voicemail from an unknown number. She didn't need to listen to it. She already knew who it was. James. Maybe he was desperate. Maybe he was begging for one last chance. But Sofia? She didn't care. She deleted the message without hesitation, because finally, she was truly free. Lessons from the story: betrayal, consequences, and personal strength. Life is full of unpredictable twists, and sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who betray us the deepest. Sofia's story is not just about betrayal in marriage, it's a powerful testament to resilience, smart preparation, and the value of financial independence. Not every breakup is a loss. Sometimes it's a liberation. Sofia loved, trusted, and sacrificed for her family, but when she was betrayed, she didn't beg or cling to a broken relationship. Instead, she chose to walk away with her head held high. Sometimes letting go is the only way to find true peace. Smart preparation always triumphs over impulsive emotions. When Sofia discovered her husband's infidelity, she didn't react with anger or confrontation. Instead, she quietly prepared, secured her finances, hired a lawyer, and ensured that, when she took action, she wouldn't be in a vulnerable position. This teaches us that in difficult times, staying calm and planning ahead is far more important than reacting emotionally. One of the reasons Sofia was able to leave so easily was because she wasn't financially dependent on James. For women at any stage in life, having financial independence, a backup plan, and a clear understanding of their rights is crucial. There's nothing more terrifying than being trapped in a bad marriage simply because of financial dependence. Most importantly, betrayers always pay the price. Sofia didn't need to destroy James or seek revenge. She simply walked away, protected herself, and let him face the consequences of his own poor choices. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't retaliation. It's simply living well and allowing others to suffer the fallout of their own actions. Sofia's story serves as a powerful reminder that no matter your age, you have the right to prioritize your self-worth. Walk away from harm and build a better life for yourself.